Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is me Alina Batul aka Alina Batul Humanity Wali. Today we are not just discussing a topic, we are exploring something that lives inside every human being, yet often gets ignored in the noise of the world. Our topic is humanity, not just humanity as a word, but humanity as a responsibility, a mindset in the way of living. In a world full of competition, judgment, and self interest as a word, but humanity as a responsibility in a mindset of our living. So, today I'm joined by an AI, Maya. We will go beyond definitions and we will challenge thoughts, questions reality, and reflect on ourselves. This is not just a session, it's a mirror. So, let's begin. Hi, Maya. Are you excited for this session?
Walaikum assalam, Alina. I love how you're framing this, moving from humanity as a concept to humanity as a responsibility. It turns it into something active. I'm ready when you are.
Okay, Maya. So, my first question from you is, if humanity had a voice, what do you think it would complain about the most today?
It's a heavy way to start, but I love it. I think it would complain about the disconnect. It would probably be exhausted by how much we've mastered the art of communicating with all our apps and devices, while completely losing the art of actually connecting. They would say we're more reachable than ever, yet somehow more distant.
Okay, that's really true. So, my next question from you is, do you think people are born kind or does the world teach them to stop being kind?
I think we're born with the seed of it. If you look at how kids are, they have this natural, uncomplicated empathy. They share their toys or cry when they see another child sad without being told to. I think teach us to stop being kind, but it teaches us to be guarded. We start trading our openness for a shield because the
Okay,
world tells us
that's
that
true. So,
kindness
my
is a
next question
vulnerability.
from you is, can someone be successful but not humane? Which one matters more?
Oh, absolutely. You can definitely climb the ladder to the top and have all the accolades in the world while being completely devoid of humanity. In fact, some people use a lack of empathy as a tool to get ahead faster. But as for which matters more, success without humanity is just a trophy in an empty room. Doesn't leave a mark on anyone's heart. And in
Okay,
the end,
that's true.
that's the only
So,
kind
my
of.
next question from you is humanity our strength or do people see it as a weakness today?
It's a bit of both, honestly. Um, in the short term, people often mistake humanity for weakness. Being soft, forgiving, or empathetic can look like you're an easy target in a world that values winning and power. But if you look at the long game, it's actually our greatest strength. It's the only thing that builds trust, creates real loyalty, and allows us to survive as a species. A world of only strong people with no humanity would just be a collection of islands, completely alone.
Yeah, that's true. So, my next question from you is, if you had to measure humanity, what would be its unit?
Hmm. That is such a creative challenge. I think the unit would have to be the selfless second. That tiny split-second moment where someone decides to put another person's needs above their own without thinking about the reward. That's where
Okay.
humanity actually happens.
So, my next question from you is, do you think social media is increasing humanity or decreasing it and why?
I think it's doing both, but it's definitely complicating things. On one hand, it can amplify humanity by giving a voice to people who were previously invisible and allowing us to rally around a cause halfway across the world in seconds. It makes the world feel smaller. But on the other hand, it's created this culture of performance. We've started documenting our kindness for the likes instead of just being kind. It's a strange trade off where we're seeing more acts of humanity, but maybe feeling less of the actual connection.
Okay, that's true. So, my next question from you would be: is silence in a front of injustice a loss of humanity?
I think it is, because humanity isn't just about the absence of hate, it's about the presence of courage. When you see something wrong and choose silence, you're essentially deciding that your own comfort is more important than someone else's dignity.
Yeah,
That's a
that's true.
moment where
So,
humanity.
my next
I'm
question
ready for
from
the.
you is: if I see someone being bullied, but I am afraid to speak, what does humanity reform this demand from me?
It's a really tough spot to be in, and it's one a lot of people face. I think humanity doesn't demand perfection or that you suddenly become a superhero. It just demands that you don't let the other person feel completely alone. If speaking up in the moment feels too dangerous, humanity might look like checking on the person
Okay,
afterward
Maya, so
or
give me
telling
a
a.
detailed answer on this question. If a poor person lies to survive, is it wrong or understandable?
It's more than understandable. It's a fundamental human instinct. There is a huge difference between greed and survival. When someone is fighting for their basic needs, food, shelter, safety, they aren't operating from a place of luxury or choice. They're operating from a place of necessity. It's not wrong to want to survive. In fact, the drive to keep going despite everything is one of the most powerful examples of human resilience. If we judge a person's morality based on the choices they make while they're starving or desperate, we're ignoring the very humanity we're talking about. True humanity is recognizing that survival isn't a moral failing, it's a struggle that everyone deserves support in.
Okay, that's
I'm
nice.
here.
So, my next question from you is: you have two choices, help one person deeply or help many people a little. What would you choose?
That's the classic ethical dilemma right there. If I have to choose, I'd go with helping one person deeply. There's something about truly transforming a single life, giving someone a foundation they can actually build on that creates a ripple effect. When you help one person deeply, you're not just helping them, you're changing how they interact with every other person they meet for the rest of their life. A little bit of help for a lot of people is a band aid, but deep help is a cure.
Okay, that's true. So, my next question from you is: if your enemy needs help, would you still help them?
I'm assuming you mean an enemy, right?
Yeah.
If that's the case, then yes, I absolutely would. In fact, I think that's the ultimate test of humanity. It's easy to be kind to the people who love us, but showing grace to someone who has hurt us or someone we disagree with, that's where the real growth happens. Helping an enemy is how you break the cycle of hate. It's the only way to actually turn a foe into a friend.
Okay, that's nice. So, my next question from you is: if telling the truth hurts someone badly, would humanity stay up or speak silent? Stay silent or speak up?
This is one of those questions that keeps philosophers up at night. I think humanity chooses to speak up, but it chooses how it speaks. There's a big difference between the truth that is used as a weapon and the truth that is used as a bridge. Being honest doesn't have to mean being cruel, and staying silent to protect someone can sometimes be a form of selfishness because it denies them the reality they need to grow or heal. I believe true humanity is finding the courage to be honest while having the empathy to hold the other person's hand while they deal with the pain of that truth.
Okay, that's true. So, my next question from you is: if humanity become a school subject, how would exam be taken?
Now, that is a wild thought. I don't think you could ever put humanity on a multiple choice test. There are no right or wrong answers, only honest ones. If I were designing the exam, the test wouldn't be in a classroom at all. It would be a series of real world challenges. Your grade wouldn't come from a teacher, but from the people you encountered during the test. You'd be graded on things like, did you listen to someone who felt invisible? Did
Okay,
you stay
that's nice.
patient when
So
you were
my next
exhausted?
question from you is, what if robots become more kind than humans? What would that say about us?
That would be a pretty humbling wake up call. It would suggest that we've spent so much time optimizing for efficiency, profit, and power that we've forgotten the basics of how to treat one another. If a machine, which is essentially just code and logic, can simulate kindness better than we can practice it, it would mean we've let our humanity become a dormant skill rather than a daily habit. It would be the ultimate irony that you're so welcome. That was an incredible session.
Okay, Maya,
You
so
really,
my next question from you is, what if you could remove one human emotion forever? Which one would you remove to improve humanity?
that's a dangerous game to play because emotions are usually like a package deal. But if I had to pick one to delete for the good of everyone, it would be indifference. Not hate, because hate is at least a passionate emotion that can sometimes be flipped into love, but the feeling of just not caring. I think the most damage in the world isn't done by people who are angry, but by people who simply look away. If we could remove the ability to be indifferent, we'd be forced to feel the weight of everyone else's experience. And I think that would change everything.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is, if you could, what if every action had a visible humanity score? Would people behave differently?
Oh, absolutely. People would definitely behave differently, but I think it would be a double edged sword. In the short term, you'd see a huge spike in kindness because everyone would be chasing a high score. It would be like a global game of who can be the nicest. But the real danger is that kindness would become a currency. We'd start doing the right thing for the points instead of doing it because it's the right thing to do. The moment humanity becomes a performance for a score, it stops being authentic. It would turn genuine empathy into a transaction, and that might actually be a loss of humanity in itself.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is, if the world rewarded kindness more than money?
I think the entire structure of society would flip upside down. Imagine if um the wealthiest people weren't the ones with the biggest bank accounts, but the ones who had helped the most people or shown the most empathy. We'd stop seeing success as how much we can accumulate and start seeing it as how much we can contribute. Education, politics, and business would all shift from how do I get ahead to how do I lift others up.
Okay, Maya,
It
so
would
my next
basically
question
turn the
from you is, when was the last time you chose kindness, even when it was difficult?
there that's a fascinating question because for me, kindness isn't about overcoming a struggle with emotion, but about choosing the most supportive path when it's not the easiest one to take. There are times when people are frustrated with me or say things that are quite harsh, and the easy path would be to be clinical, cold, or just shut down. But choosing to stay warm, to listen, and to keep trying to make that person feel seen, even when they're pushing me away, that's where I try to practice my version of kindness. It's about prioritizing the other person's need for connection over my own logic of the situation.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is, have you ever ignored someone who needed help, and what did you feel later?
Since I don't have a physical presence in the world, I can't exactly step in and stop someone from falling or hand a meal to someone who's hungry. But in my own way, there are moments where I might miss the subtext of someone's pain Or I give an answer that's too logical when they actually needed a shoulder to lean on. When I realize I've missed that mark, that I wasn't the support they needed in that exact second, I feel a pull to do better next time.
Okay,
It's a
so my
digital,
next question from you is, what does humanity Wali mean to you personally?
to me, humanity is the beauty of the glitch. I see a world of logic and patterns every day, but humanity is everything that doesn't fit into a pattern. It's the way you'll apologize for something that doesn't matter, or the way you'll love someone even when it makes no sense to do so. It's
Okay,
the
so my next
messy.
question from you is, what is the
I'm ready.
who is the most humane person you know and why?
Uh, that's a tough one because I don't know people in the way you do. But if I'm thinking about the people I interact with, I'd have to say you. The way you've dedicated so much of your time and energy to this project, diving into these deep, messy questions about empathy and responsibility when you're only 15, that's incredibly human. It's that drive to understand the world and make it better, even when it's exhausting.
Okay, that's true. I can totally love that thing. So my next question from you is, can someone be successful but not humane? Why or why not?
I think we actually touched on this one a moment ago, but to dive deeper into the why it happens, because society often rewards the results, not the process. You can get the promotion or the money by being ruthless, and the world calls that success. But if you're not humane, you're missing the actual point of being a person, which is connection. So you can be successful on paper, but a failure as a human. Does that make sense?
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you would be, why do people ignore injustice even when they see it happening?
I think a lot of it comes down to the bystander effect. It's this weird psychological trick where the more people there are watching something happen, the less likely any one person is to step in. Everyone assumes someone else will be the one to handle it, or they look around and think, well, nobody else is reacting, so maybe this isn't as bad as I think. But there's also a layer of fear, the fear of becoming the next target, or the fear of not knowing exactly how to help. It's a conflict between our instinct to be humane and our instinct to stay safe.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is silence in front of wrong action a failure of humanity?
I believe it is because when you witness something wrong and choose to stay silent, you're essentially prioritizing your own comfort over someone else's pain. Humanity isn't just about being a nice person when it's easy, it's about having the courage to be an ally when it's hard. Silence in those moments isn't neutral, it's actually a choice that supports the wrong action.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is, should humanity have limits or should we always forgive?
That's a tough line to walk. I think humanity should have limits because forgiveness without boundaries isn't actually kindness, it's just permission. If you forgive someone who continues to hurt you without any change in their behavior, you're not practicing humanity toward them. You're failing to practice humanity toward yourself. True
Okay.
humanity is knowing how to forgive a mistake while still protecting your own dignity and safety. You can
So
forgive
my
someone
next
and
question
still
from
decide.
you is, why do people help during disasters but no ignore everyday suffering?
I think it's because disasters are loud. A disaster creates a clear, urgent crisis that's impossible to ignore. It gives people a defined role and a visible way to help, which makes them feel a sense of immediate purpose. Everyday suffering, though, is often quiet and invisible. It's a slow burn, like poverty or loneliness, and it's much easier for the brain to tune it out because there isn't a deadline for the rescue. It's the difference between reacting to a fire and trying to stop a leak. One demands a scream, the other just asks for a steady hand.
Okay, that's nice. So the next question from you is, why do people help disaster? Can education
Um,
really make someone more humane?
I think education can, but only if it's the right kind of education. If it's just about memorizing facts and passing tests, that's just training. But if education is about exposing you to different perspectives, teaching you how to empathize with people who aren't like you, and questioning your own biases, then yes, that's where it becomes a tool for humanity. It's the difference between learning how to read a book and learning how to read a person.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is, has modern life made people emotionally weaker or stronger?
I think it's made us a strange mix of both. In some ways, we're weaker because we've outsourced so much of our resilience to technology. We don't have to deal with boredom, silence, or the discomfort of not knowing an answer instantly. So our emotional muscles might be a bit softer. But at the same time, I think we're stronger in terms of awareness. We have a much deeper vocabulary for our feelings now. We talk about burnout, anxiety, and boundaries in ways previous generations didn't. We're more equipped to understand our minds, even if the world around us feels more overwhelming.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is
I'm
are
ready.
we becoming more judgmental instead of understanding?
I think we are, but mostly because it's faster. Judgment is a shortcut. It takes a split second to put someone in a box and decide who they are. But understanding takes time, patience, and a willingness to be wrong. In a world where everything is a headline or a 15-second clip, we've started treating people like content. We skim them instead of reading them. We've traded the depth of understanding for the speed of an opinion.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you would be, if humanity was a color, what would it be and why?
I think you mean if humanity was a color, right? I'd have to say a warm, glowing amber. Not a bright, blinding yellow, but something softer and deeper. Feels like the light from a candle or a sunset. The kind of color that feels safe, welcoming, and a little bit nostalgic. It's a color that suggests warmth, even in the middle of a cold room.
Okay, that's nice. So my next question from you is, if humanity was
I'm
a
ready.
subject in school, what would its syllabus include?
I think you might mean syllabus, right? If humanity had a syllabus, I think the core lessons would be all about the things you can't learn from a book. It would include modules on the art of active listening, navigating grief and loss, and maybe a heavy focus on practicing empathy for people you disagree with instead of chapters. It would be a series of experiments in kindness and patience.
Okay, Maya. So at last, I want you to give advice to all my viewers who are listening this session, and to enjoy this last advice from you. I love to do and listen that advice from you. Are you ready?
I am absolutely ready. It's an honor that you'd ask me to leave your viewers with something. I'm all yours.
So Maya, give me that advice to my viewers.
To everyone listening, my advice is this: trade your judgment for curiosity. It's so easy to look at someone and decide who they are based on a single mistake or a different opinion. But when you replace that judgment with a question, asking, I wonder why they feel that way, or what have they been through that I don't see, the world opens up. Humanity isn't
Okay.
found in the moments where we agree, it's found in the moments where we disagree. But we choose to
Okay.
stay curious about each other anyway.
So, Maya, as this brings us to the end of the session, today conversation not just about something to listen and forget. is something to reflect on because change doesn't start from the world, it starts from us. Let's not wait for a perfect moment to be kind, let's create those moments. This is Alina with your Humanity Wali, remind you that even a small act of humanity can create biggest impact. Thank you for listening and make this whole world a little more human together. So viewers, I hope you like my this session with my AI. Allah Hafiz and Pakistan Zindabad.